Hey everybody, so I had to work today, and on my way back from work I decided to stop at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to have a Dollar Tree haul that will probably be a separate video because it's going to be huge, but I wanted to do just an update on what's going on, or what I know, the information that's come out about the bomber from Christmas Day here in Nashville. And so I'm just going to do like a little timeline, I guess. So of course the bombing happened, and there's speculation. I already talked about that in my other video, and I'm really congested at the moment. And so anywho, the next day, which was my birthday, I started seeing on social media the street that is named after my family, like the land that my family used to used to own, that used to belong to my family back in the olden days before they, like, family sold it off and whatnot. I started seeing it plastered all over Facebook, and then it started being on like the news channels, and come to find out it was like the FBI was like raiding the area, or in the area, because they had a suspect. Like, they had a potential suspect for the bombing, and the story goes that somebody had noticed that the RV had been parked in the yard through Google Maps, like the images on Google Maps or something. Anyway, I guess it's like neighbors who were familiar with it, like, reported it, people pulling it up on Google Maps or whatever. That's beyond me. I don't know how. I'm assuming that the FBI and all the big guys already had like leads at that point in time of like where to look and information about the vehicle and whatnot, but who is registered to. But anyway, so the guy was named, and so somebody on one of the local Facebook groups had posted information about how this guy, the suspected guy, the suspected bomber, or at that point they were just saying that he was connected to the bombing. They weren't really calling him the bomber, but they were saying he was a person of interest connected to the bombing. So somebody found that there was a quick claim deed that he had filed on November 25th, which was the day before Thanksgiving, exactly 1 month before Christmas, where the property that he had owned or lived at, the property in question, where they saw the pictures of the RV parked, had been given over or sold for $0 to some lady in California. And then they dug deeper and claimed that he had a second property on the same street that he had also given to her. I think that's still questionable about like whether or not he gave that to her like last year, but there's a whole thing about that. Like, he acquired it from his brother. I don't know if his brother had passed or his brother had given it to him. I think his brother had passed, because there's something about his mom, like, he took over the property and his mom like filed a petition or something, because anyway, there was an internal battle with his family over that property, but it was a second property on the same street. So that right there, this was before anybody knew, well, before they ever released his image to the public. So I, just based off of that information, I kind of gathered like what kind of person we were talking about here. And so anyway, they the next day, yesterday, which was the 27th, it was confirmed that he was in fact the bomber. Like, the remains, or what they thought were human remains, turned out to be human remains, and they turned out to be his. So my suspicion about it being a suicide bomber was, you know, right. And they still don't know for sure what had happened, like what his motive was, but there's still speculation that it was over the, like, a, you know, possibly a conspiracy theory thing where he's trying to like take down the 5G network or something. Anyway, it seems like it was intentionally directed at AT&T. The bad thing is, like, it ruined the historic part of downtown Nashville, like part of the historic area of downtown Nashville. which and it's put a lot of people out of their homes. It just, I don't know, it's one thing to want to like destroy AT&T or whatever the motive and purpose was with that, but then he's forever ruined the history of Nashville. I mean, they're talking about they want to rebuild the area, but it's gonna take so long if they do that. Like, I guess restore it back to how it was before. But like all those businesses and where people lived and whatnot, which I don't think there's a lot of residential areas around there, because I think they're several blocks over, but I mean it impacted several blocks away too, of course. But here's the crazy thing, like finding out where he lived prior to all this, there's also talk about like, or questions about, had he been collecting the explosives like for a while before this all took place, like prior to giving over the property, like over a month ago, had he been collecting explosives prior to all that time and storing them at his house? And if he did, like he's like just that house is just a little over a mile away from where I live, like, because again, it used to be part of the family property. Like, my family is like one of the founding families of Antioch, Tennessee, and that property, I don't know, it's just crazy to think, like, had something happened, had there been an unintentional triggering or, you know, an accident, anything like that could have set those explosives off, that street would not be here right now. Like, all the properties on the street, and I can't remember if I said it, but since I knew that I was going to be going to Dollar Tree and coming back home that way, I brought my dash cam and I recorded my commute from Dollar Tree. Now my dash cam is a little finicky, it was giving me problems, so when the whole camera thing is glitchy. I never know if it's gonna work or not, but I noticed like when I started recording, it was stuck in night mode. I can't even talk right. It was stuck in night mode, so I don't even know, like the video may be grainy, the coloring may be off. If it turned out in some decent way, I'll put it at the end of this video. But I was kind of surprised, like going by the house, like seeing, okay, so it was crazy. So when the news broke that he was just kind of like suspected at the time. He wasn't like, you know, they didn't have any cold hard facts that it was him. It was my birthday, like I said, to see the street appear on the national news, like I was like, what the heck is going on now? And then last night, like when it was confirmed and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, airplanes. I mean, it's just crazy to think that that was like literally, at one point in time, it was literally my backyard that all that was going on at. My goodness, I'm still like, I don't know, it's just weird and crazy to see, like, you know, I said in the other video that I'm about roughly 10 or 11 miles away from where it happened. But to know that, like, that guy could have been hoarding all that, the bombs and everything, like what he used to make the bombs, just like that way, just like right back that way is the interstate, and just past the interstate, like, would be his backyard. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I remember, like, driving through there, like, I usually cut through that street when I go to, like, when I'm coming home from that Dollar Tree location. And I remember seeing, like, the top of the RV over the fence, like, when I'd be driving by there. Like, you never freaking know what goes on around you. You may think you know, you may think you have an idea, but, well, I guess nobody really knew what was going on here. And so I'm curious like when more information comes out. Like I keep thinking, like, since he lived in the area for a long time, and when my mom was alive, she worked at a grocery store nearby, and I remember like she worked for the company for many years and worked at 2 locations. She worked at 2 different locations, very like just, you know, equal distances from the house. And I know like she would always talk about customers, like she would get to know her customers, and you know, the ones who would come in on a regular basis, and it made me think of where he lived. If he like more than likely he probably would have shopped at the grocery store she had last worked at, you know. And I mean, like, I had co-workers when I worked for my first Sears location that knew her through Food Lion, and like they were like, oh yeah, that's your mom? I was like, yeah, that's my mom. Like it was kind of like, you know, we had that connection there. Like it was like, oh, it's a small world. So it made me wonder, like, had he been like a regular customer there, would she have like known him? And like, you know, when you see somebody on a regular basis, especially like in that kind of field where you're checking them out, like checking out the groceries, you see what they buy on a regular basis, you get to know more about them. Like I know that she had customers, she would always talk about like certain customers who had cats, and they'd come in and she would talk about her cats and they would talk about their cats with her. And you know, like, would she have, you know, seen him on a regular basis and had conversations with him? Like, it's those weird things, like those things that don't seem that significant. I don't know, it's just weird to think about that. Or maybe he shopped at Sears when I worked at Sears. Who knows? Because that was a pretty local thing. It just, oh my goodness. You start to think about, like, have you ever had any encounters with this person? It's just crazy. Well, the whole situation's crazy, and there's still so many questions without answers. So, I'm just rambling more and more about this. But, anyway, it's just, again, like I said, it's bizarre, crazy, and to be so close, like again, thinking what could have happened. I know people told me, you know, you can't think about that kind of thing, but still, like, my mind wanders all over the place anyway. And so I just, oh my goodness gracious, I cannot even. So that's the current update for now. So I'm gonna end this video right here and then jump into my huge Dollar Tree haul. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. I really do. I know I was really bummed out and in a certain mood that last video, but I hope everybody's doing well. And New Year's is coming up just here in a couple of days, so I hope everybody has a good and safe New Year's too, and hopefully 2021 will be way better than 2020. So take care, y'all.